Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 24, 2025 regular meeting of San Diego Community Power Board of Directors. I am Paloma Aguirre, Chair of the Board representing the City of Imperial Beach. We welcome members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us today at the Port of San Diego Administration Building. I will now call the meeting to order. Mari, could you please call the roll?
Director Insunza,
I'm here.
Alternate Director Lacava,
Here.
Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki,
Here.
Director Yamani,
Here.
Vice Chair Lassen Reamer, Chair Aguirre.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Please stand to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic and one nation under God, indivisible. Thank you very much. Next, we acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is critical in our steps towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Please, let's take a moment to honor these ancestral peoples. Thank you. Okay, next we have special presentations and introductions. I would like to welcome new community power staff to introduce themselves. Cody Harrison, Senior Program Associate, Jeb Spengler, Strategic Finance Manager, and Marlena Maurer, Senior Program Associate. Please proceed.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, my fellow colleagues at San Diego Community Power. Thank you. My name is Cody Harrison. I'm a new Senior Program Associate at SDCP. I just joined 3 weeks ago, working primarily on the Solar Battery Savings Program under Emily Fisher. To share a little bit about my background, I hold a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Science and Policy from Duke University and have worked across a range of sectors from wastewater and urban forestry to regenerative agriculture and ecological restoration, all with a focus on creating infrastructure that heals rather than harms. To give you a sense of the kind of person I am, I moved out to California in a tiny house on wheels that I built as a demonstration of small footprint ecological living and lived in it for 6 years. And recently I spent some time developing a vision and pro forma financials for a 6 megawatt solar plus storage facility in the Warner Springs Basin, just across from the Warner substation. The goal was to transform a degraded creek along Highway 79 into a restored riparian corridor with solar panels spaced for sheep grazing, native vegetation, public access, and hands-on education and workforce development. Not just a fenced-off array, but a regenerative energy park. I'm also a strong believer in cooperative business models and distributed energy where people have a true equity stake. So I'm very excited to be working on San Diego Community Power's virtual power plant, which isn't a co-op per se, but the batteries and devices within it are owned by the people. A powerful example, in my opinion, of real equity that lets everyday residents directly participate in the renewable energy revolution that we're still in the early stages of building. I'm honored to be a part of this team and grateful for the opportunity to contribute to such an important mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
And members of the board, thank you for letting me introduce myself. Jeb Spengler with San Diego Community Power. I'm the new Strategic Finance Manager. I come from a long background of working in the public power sector, 20 plus years as a municipal advisor, a credit rating analyst with Fitch Ratings, and almost 20 years as an investment banker doing capital projects. My role at San Diego Community Power will be to lead the prepay bond efforts, a role that I played at my previous firm in assisting San Jose Clean Energy with their original prepay bond transaction. And some other roles will be trying to obtain an investment grade credit rating and other strategic finance projects that the finance team has been working on. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome to the team, Jeff. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and board members. My name is Marlena Maurer. I have just been at San Diego Community Power for about a week, joining Cody in the Solar Battery Savings Program. I come from where I have spent several years at the Port of Seattle working in environmental and maritime management. And the last 4 years I spent with the Center for Sustainable Energy, managing statewide EV incentive programs on the East Coast. So I'm very excited to bring my expertise in program management to more local community, and very excited to bring all that excitement and passion for sustainability and energy to our local community. So thank you for having me.
Welcome, Marlena. Thank you. Well, thank you very much and welcome to the new members of the team. Next, we're going to move on to items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda. Are there any that the board would like to do? Seeing none. Next, we're going to go to non-agenda public comment. Do we have any speakers?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Okay. And I'll note that written public comments submitted before the board meeting were emailed to all directors prior to the meeting and will be posted online. Next, we're going to move on to the consent calendar, items 1 through 8. Do any directors wish to pull items from the consent calendar? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment on consent?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Are there any board members that would like to make comments? Or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Alternate Director LaCava,
Yes.
Director Suzuki,
Yes.
Director Yamani,
Yes.
Chair Aguirre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Next, we're going to move on to item number 9, quarterly update on regulatory and legislative affairs. I will now turn it over to the regulatory and legislative team to present this item.
Good evening. I'm very pleased that this evening we have the entire regulatory and legislative affairs policy team to present. It's a fairly lengthy presentation because it's our quarterly update. We haven't given an update since January. We're going to start off with a legislative update. And so our plan is to take questions after the legislative portion, and then we'll have a regulatory portion. And so feel free to ask questions at any point, of course, but that would be our preference. So without further ado, I will introduce the first member of the team who'll be presenting, and that's Patrick Welch, our new Associate Director of Legislative Affairs.
Board Chair and members, Patrick Welch, Associate Director of Legislative Affairs. Clicker. Oh, perfect. So I'm going to give hopefully a brief overview of what's happening in the state legislature right now on issues that could impact San Diego Community Power, and also what's going on at the federal level. Starting with state legislative issues, there's about 2,400 bills that have been introduced so far in this legislative session. We're reviewing close to 160 of them right now that impact energy issues related to procurement, transmission, infrastructure, programs, general government issues as well. San Diego Community Power, operating under the board-approved policy platform, has adopted several support positions right now on several bills that will enhance affordability, transmission build-out, and also enhance some teleconferencing procedures for public meetings for both this body and the Community Advisory Committee. I won't go into all the details of all the bills. I'm happy to answer any questions of exactly what we're supporting right now. Do want to point out one on this slide that I think is particularly impactful, and you may hear about it also in the news and in the community. That's SB 540 by Senator Becker. That would expand the California Independent System Operator and allow them to operate a regional energy market. Right now, when the Power Services team is conducting transactions, it's within the ISO Balancing Authority area that is predominantly and exclusively, within California. Under this bill, we would be able to make more efficient transactions throughout the Western United States that would result in $700 million in cost savings across the state for generation, increase grid reliability, and also increase resiliency. So really, it's a win-win-win. There's a strong coalition that we've joined supporting that, including partners in the environmental community and in the labor community. Also engaging on several issues related to state budget and funding that are important, I think, to SDCP. The legislature is currently revving up its process to adopt a state budget by June 15th, just a couple months away. 2 items we're working on that is we are advocating for a program called Distributed Electricity Backup Assets Program. This would give the CEC $180 million specifically for programs like solar battery savings. So we're advocating for that money in the hopes that the legislature will agree to approve it, give it to the CEC, write some program guidelines, and hopefully we'd be in a position to be able to apply and draw down those funds if we were selected as an applicant. We're also working with CCAs and the legislature right now. The legislature, on another issue, the legislature over 2 years ago appropriated another $280 million for a separate battery program. That is at the California Public Utilities Commission. They have been sitting on that money for over 2 years. So we are working with the colleagues in the legislature to try and get the Public Utilities Commission to unlock that funding so that residents in San Diego can benefit from those battery incentives that we could then potentially enroll in the solar battery savings program as well. And then finally, there's a significant conversation on the budget front and the funding front about customer affordability. As part of that, there's a lot of conversations about what ratepayers should be paying for and what they shouldn't be paying for right now. We are also part of a coalition that is advocating for the importance of energy efficiency programs in preserving customer affordability and reducing customer demand, in particular in evening peak hours. And then finally, on the state legislative front, wanted to just make the board aware that there is also significant legislative attention this year on energy storage safety. Know that has also been an issue locally. There are 6 bills up there on the slide. There's actually a 7th bill has now been introduced on energy storage safety. Our power services team is obviously engaged in a number of contracts for energy storage. And so we are closely monitoring all these bills to make sure that they appropriately balance new safety protocols with our ability to continue to procure the batteries because they are vital to the clean energy transition. And happy to answer any questions about these bills, but for sake of time, I won't go through the details on all of them. Turning to federal issues, this has been a very evolving topic. We've been very engaged in a number of federal issues this year. Just to set the context, the previous 2 Congresses ago, the 117th Congress, they passed the Inflation Reduction Act and the IIJ. The new 119th Congress is now under different control with a different administration, and they have been taking or are poised to take a number of actions that Community Power has been tracking. It's a very fluid situation with activity happening through 3 core areas: executive actions, potential congressional actions, and also through the courts. We are predominantly coordinating with CCAs across the state. We have started engaging with other trade associations at the national level on these issues as well. And we also recently joined the Local Energy Aggregation Network, which is a trade association of community choice aggregators from across the country. There's about 8 states that authorize community choice. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on and where we're at. Executive orders, there have been dozens, if not hundreds of them. There's about 8 major ones that pertain to energy. We're looking at 4 of them specifically as the most impactful. In addition, there is a number of tariffs, as everyone has been reading in the news and receiving reports about. So doing our best to track that and understand what that could mean in conjunction with coworkers and colleagues in the power services team. The most impactful executive order up there is Unleashing American Energy. This was introduced or issued on the first day of the administration. It's most impactful because it did seek to pause a lot of the funds that were in the legislation I mentioned that was passed in 2022, the IRA and the IIJ. Some good news to report. We are not recipients of Community Power as of any of these federal funds, but there are 3 significant streams of funding that are coming to the state of California that we could potentially be ancillary beneficiaries of. And the good news is, although that executive order sought to pause the disbursements of these funds, so far the state has actually encumbered all these funds and have them in their possession. I'll run through them really quickly. Solar for All was a nearly $250 million grant. That's at the Public Utilities Commission. That could help potentially buy down the costs of future community solar projects that we may be able to invest in. Home efficiency rebates program is going to be additional funding that will be braided with the Equitable Building Decarb program that Nelson is going to talk about in the next presentation. And then finally, another home electrification rebate program through the CEC that actually was paused as a result of the order, but the pause was recently lifted, and the CEC is again accepting applications for residents, including in San Diego, to apply for rebates. So we're not direct beneficiaries of these, but they are all programs that really support our deep decarbonization efforts. So we're glad to see that these funds are flowing through and tracking the programmatic implementation of them. And then finally, on congressional issues, Congress is currently going through its budget reconciliation process. Both the Senate and the House have adopted what's called a reconciliation resolution, which kicks off that process. They are anticipating to adopt a budget bill or budget reconciliation bill by Memorial Day. That is their target. They have to, through that process, find $1.5 to $4.5 trillion in savings. A significant amount of money. So we expect them to potentially look at some of the clean energy tax credits and rescind those as ways to create some of those savings. Collectively, if you look at the clean energy tax credits that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act, over 10 years, they get $870 billion in savings. So well on their way to that potentially $1.5 to $4.5 trillion savings. The two main tax credits in there are known as the ITC and the PTC. Those provide generally 30% tax credits in power purchase agreements or energy storage agreements, and 10% adders for other requirements that can be met. The Congress is also looking at two consumer level tax credits as well. These would be tax credits that can be captured by individual homeowners or residents to lower the cost of solar, battery, and storage, or, for example, efficient hot water heaters, important to reducing the cost of those devices for deep decarbonization efforts. There's also been some talk about using or reducing the ability of local governments to issue tax-exempt municipal bonds as a way to create federal savings as well. That is important to us because our prepay bonds rely on tax-exempt bond financing. We understand that at this point in time, that is a much lower priority for the Congress for savings. And then there is a bill right now in Congress, HR 2838, that does seek to wind down the ITC and the PTC over 5 years, specifically for solar and wind. It would leave it in place for other technologies, geothermal, nuclear, battery storage. At least it's on my right, there's a letter. There have been two letters signed actually in the Senate and the House by members of the majority party to their leadership expressing their support for the ITC and PTC. So that is a good sign that within the party in charge, there is at least some modicum of support for these programs and maintaining them and not harming them in the reconciliation process. So it's very helpful to see that. Now, I'll round up by just talking about what we're doing. We have been out in DC talking to the congressional delegation from San Diego and our two US senators, advocating that we want to preserve the ITC and the PTC. We want to preserve those two consumer-facing tax credits. There's also some other various issues out there that we are highlighting for our congressional delegation as well, including the impact of tariffs and maintaining federal awards if they've already been awarded as well. We're also engaging, like I said, with other trade associations and setting up regular calls to share information so that we can kind of keep track of this reconciliation process and do our best to advocate for our organization and our customers in this process. And we'll keep on doing that as we move towards the Memorial deadline, and be happy to keep the board apprised as things develop. And I think that wraps up the end of the legislative update. So before I pass it on to my coworkers for a regulatory update, wanted to pause there and see if there are any questions or comments on either state or federal legislative issues.
Are there any comments or questions?
This question, Madam Chair. Mr.
Welch,
Welch.
thank you.
Mr. Welch, you said SB 540 is what we're watching.
Yeah, we're supporting that bill.
We're supporting that
Correct.
already.
Yes.
And the author, you said, is Becker. Is that funded already?
It doesn't require funding. The funding of it would actually come from market revenues. So anyone who's a market participant, including San Diego Community Power, that's how the market works. So we fund CAISO right now. So that new market.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So the ITC and the PTC are extremely concerning. What's the likelihood of successfully advocating to continue that program? I know that's a hard question, but that was my next question, if there had been any studies done to show the potential economic financial impacts in the market. So that's good to hear. And have you talked to some other regions that would be also impacted beyond California?
In DC with CCAs from other states, so Ohio, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So yes, it's definitely trying to speak from a broad perspective as possible, both from the CCA perspective, but then when we can with the renewable development community, the business community, because I think there really is a shared message there that these tax credits are important for affordability and for organizations like us to make these investments.
Great, thank you. Yes, please proceed.
Thank you for the presentation. Just to build on Chair's question, one of the things I've noticed is that the action in Washington is creating a lot of interesting partnership, people that don't normally work very well together. And I think you touched on it a little bit. I'm kind of curious to your last response that folks that are not part of climate change or clean energy space, but whether it's capital markets, whether it is developers that just see an economic opportunity or a business opportunity, do we see those kinds of folks coming into the conversation that may have perhaps more influence because they're not pushing the climate change, they're just talking about the economy and jobs, etc.
Yeah, there are some organizations. One comes to mind. It's called CRESS. I think it's called Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions. Typically, is a market-based group. And so really finding those partnerships, maybe in areas where we wouldn't otherwise find those partnerships, has maybe been a blessing of this process. But we are really working intentionally to find, I think, also the right messengers too, and work through a lot of different organizations and people to find that pathway forward and hopefully convince the right people that when they're going through the reconciliation process, we're not going to make any harmful decisions to our energy production and keeping rates down for Californians, for everyone in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. So seeing no more comments or questions, please proceed to the regulatory.
Good evening. My name is Aisha. As Patrick said, I'm Senior Policy Manager here at San Diego Community Power. I spend most of my time as regulatory lead for the San Diego Regional Energy Network. And tonight I have a brief regulatory update. Let's see if I can figure out how to use this. There it is. Nope, going back. All right, great. So this update is on the long-term gas planning proceeding. The title of the proceeding in its full glory is Order Instituting Rulemaking to Establish Policies, Processes, and Rules to Ensure Safe and Reliable Gas Systems in California and Perform Long-Term Gas System Planning. So that's why I'll refer to it henceforth as long-term gas planning proceeding. Just a little educational moment. Order Instituting Rulemaking, that refers to a type of proceeding at the CPUC, of which there are several, and it's specifically to hash out policy matters and implement legislation. And so The proceeding purpose is to facilitate decarbonization activities over time in a way that supports equity, safety, affordability, reliability, and price spikes. This is a very expansive proceeding. It's going to go on for quite a while. I anticipate it's going to look at everything from rates to, again, safety, and then programs, which is part of why we're engaging here. So actually going to hit on that second bullet there first. So going back to the purpose of an order instituting rulemaking, the CPUC is implementing Senate Bill 1221 in this proceeding. And while there are quite a few moving pieces in that bill, ultimately what the goal is to have the CPUC establish pilot decarbonization zones by January 1st, 2026. So they're going to do that based off of a variety of factors, including the concentration of distribution lines that are, sorry, not distribution lines, gas lines that are going to be decommissioned in the next 10 years or so. They're also considering equity impacts, cost effectiveness, and rate impacts as they go through that process. So there have been several regional energy networks that have expressed interest in playing a role in implementing these neighborhood decarbonization pilots. So we're keeping an eye on it for that reason. And so we can represent SDREN's interests. And then also a CCA, specifically Clean Power Alliance, they've expressed interest in implementing it as well. So I think that as time goes on, we may see RENs and CCAs get a little more vocal as this pilot development continues. And then the other very important interest we have in this proceeding is accessing gas distribution planning data to support our own load planning. As gas lines get decommissioned, we want to know what the IOUs are doing over the next 10, 15 years so we can plan for our own load growth. And that is it for me tonight. I can take any questions, or if there are none, pass it off to Dean. Inputs.
Any comments or questions from our board? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm here to brief you. Oh, very good. Getting used to this clicker. Here to brief you on an issue that affects how our customers interact with their energy usage and ultimately how they can control their bills and their carbon impact. So in the late 2000s, the CPUC approved SDG&E's smart meter program. And one of the benefits sold to the public was customer access to near real-time data usage via something called a home area network or HON device. These devices connect smart meters and let customers monitor in real time how much energy they're using at any given moment. With that information, customers can adjust real-time usage in real time, participate in innovative demand response programs, and this kind of visibility is really foundational for customers' empowerment and innovative energy savings programs. However, despite promises made in their proposal, SDG&E has quietly stopped supporting connections to HON devices to their smart meters. They ended support for HON device reconnections and aren't allowing new HON connections at all. This means that customers who once had access to real-time data have now lost it and are permanently disconnected from that tool until they upgrade their meters to new Wi-Fi enabled meters. And this is concerning because that rollout's likely years away. And in the meantime, customers who rely on that program or use that function will no longer have access to it. So what we're doing to address this issue is we filed a petition for modification at the CPUC. And this is like a formal way to ask the CPUC to modify an existing decision, especially when we feel that something has been implemented in a flawed way or that circumstances have changed. So in our case, like, we have argued that the SDG&E is out of compliance with previous CPUC decisions and that customers are unfairly being denied access to this important benefit that was highlighted during SDG&E's case where they sought approval of the smart meters. So we've filed that petition in jointly with the CEA, as well as an organization called Mission Data, who is a coalition of like technology companies that uses this real-time data to innovate programs. So we're asking the CPUC to clarify that customers must be reconnected to HON devices and allow new customers to have those pairings, at least until those new Wi-Fi meters are rolled out. So, you know, reality, the issue is more about like one technology. It's about that customer empowerment and advancing our goals, because this real-time data usage is a foundational tool that helps customers respond to price signals, reduce demand, and integrate clean energy resources at home and in the community. So we think that, you know, it supports affordability and resilience, and really helps meet those broader climate goals. So we're advocating for that reconnection, and it's like a simple solution here. So we filed the petition earlier this year, and it'll likely take another 6 to 12 months to adjudicate at the CPUC. Any questions?
Director Suzuki.
So you said that it would take, under normal circumstances, if everything were to go the way that SDG&E is planning, it would take a couple of years, or it'd take a few years?
At least they haven't even filed. Like they filed to upgrade their AMI meters to like the next generation technology, or this Wi-Fi enabled technology in their GRC. However, it's denied, and they were asked to file a standalone application. They haven't filed that yet. So once that's submitted, those proceedings can take anywhere from 12 to 36 months to conclude.
And then this petition was filed, but it's not going to be heard for 6 to 12 months.
It will likely take 6 to 12 months for the CPUC to issue a decision. Like we filed it, there were comments and support from industry. SDG&E obviously filed comments against it, and now it's in the decision phase of the CPUC.
And in their decision to, I guess, halt, were they halting the HAN?
They just stopped supporting that technology because it's like a earlier generation technology that people are moving away from that PON construct and moving into Wi-Fi. So they just kind of quietly stopped supporting it, so that when customers lost that connection, they just couldn't get it back.
But there's nothing that's going in place of it. So there's just this gap of information.
Exactly.
I see. And so is there anything that they're breaching or violating by not filling that in or offering customers that information or access?
That's what we're arguing in the PFM.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. That's a great question. Director Yamani? Other question? So do you have a rough number of people affected, and do we have guidance on what we can tell them in the meantime? So how do they know that the CPUC is making and considering this decision? And is there an opportunity for them to advocate for them?
I do not have the exact number of customers affected. We can get back to you with that information.
And do they have the opportunity to advocate for themselves to the CPUC, or is that public comment period closed?
Public comment period is closed. However, that doesn't stop them from, if you want to go to a CPUC meeting or something, make public comments, I think the opportunity will be there.
That's a big data gap, right? To Director Suzuki's point. And my concern is that they may not understand the hierarchy and processing of things and may think that it's something that we are responsible.
And like, to be clear, they have access to the data. It's just 48 hours behind. So they don't have access to that real-time data. So like to the point where you can look at your phone and see what's going on in your house or your facility at any given time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But 2 days late,
Right.
knowing that you could have
Can't
saved
make
energy
actions.
2 days before is a big deal, especially nowadays where people are hurting to
Yeah.
pay the bills. So thank you so much for your presentation and for fielding our questions. Seeing no more additional questions, we're going to go to public comment if there's any. Oh, we have still? Okay, sorry, my bad. There's more. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Going on in our world, but don't worry, I am the last member of our team.
What's in rush?
All right. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Stephen Gunther. I'm the regulatory manager at Community Power. And I'll be presenting on yet another rulemaking, one that directly impacts Community Power's rate-making process. So in February, the California Public Utilities Commission opened a new rulemaking to revisit the power charge difference adjustment, or PCIA, and other issues related to the Energy Resource Recovery Account, which is how investor-owned utilities recover their energy procurement costs. So as a quick refresher, the PCIA is the rate-making element to ensure indifference between bundled customers, so those customers that receive all their service from SDG&E, and unbundled customers, like community power customers or direct access customers. And the intent is to avoid cost shifts when a customer departs from the utility to another provider like community power. It does this by having customers pay their share of the legacy portfolio costs that were procured on behalf of those customers in the past. At a very high level, it's determined by looking at the difference between the portfolio costs of that legacy portfolio and then the portfolio's current value. And that value is calculated by using market price benchmarks. And that difference is the indifference amount, which is the PCIA that was paid through your rates. So the new rulemaking is intended to improve the existing rules and processes, look for ways to reduce rate volatility year over year, and to continue to ensure indifference between bundled IOU customers and departed customers. Proceeding is structured into two sequential tracks. The first track is narrowly focused on potential adjustments to the resource adequacy market price benchmarks that set the portfolio value. So given the changes in the resource adequacy markets, which we've spoken about many times at these meetings, that's caused high benchmarks that value the legacy portfolio and the calculation that I just went through. And the Commission wants to revisit the current methodologies in an expedited track. And then track 2 will consider much more holistic changes to the current PCIA framework and potential ways to sunset the PCIA. So Community Power worked through our trade association, CalCCA, to file extensive opening comments and reply comments. Generally, we argue that the Commission has an obligation not just to bundled customers, but also ensuring indifference to unbundled customers. We also argue that customer affordability can't be achieved through modifying the market price benchmarks. This is because in the current framework, lowering rates for bundled customers by adjusting the PCIA just results in increases for unbundled customers or vice versa. It's a zero-sum game and it doesn't bring down the total costs. And that's how it's being framed by the IOUs in the proceeding as an affordability measure. We also urge that any adjustments rely on transparent data and analysis on the actual rate impacts. And then lastly, address 5 specific proposals from the Commission staff on potential adjustments to the resource adequacy market price benchmark. A pre-hearing conference was held on April 7th, and a scoping memo was issued the following day that outlined the issues that will be addressed in Track 1. Following that, CalCCA filed opening legal briefs earlier this week and will be filing replies next week. Primarily, those briefs are arguing that any changes to the RA market price benchmark methodologies can only be applied prospectively and not used during the 2025 rate true-up, because that would be retroactive rate making is the legal argument we're making. So we hope that the Commission sides with us in that argument. And as I mentioned, Track 1 is expedited, so we expect the proposed decision to be issued next month. And Community Power's staff working closely monitoring this issue, actively engaged in the proceeding and working across teams to model potential rate impacts on the various proposals that Energy Division had set forth. So in short, there will be more to come on this important issue in the coming months. And that ends our team's very long update for tonight. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Director Yaman.
Thank you for your team, Laura. Thank you. Thank you for making sure that we are aware of all the legislative and the rules and regulations that are just imposing upon us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I agree, so much coming our way. We appreciate you being vigilant and monitoring what's going on legislatively and regulatorily. Do we have any public comment now?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, this is a receive and file, so we are going to do that and move on to the next item. Next, we're going to move on to item 10, adopt the resolution number 2025-03. Nelson Lomeli, Senior Program Manager, will present this item.
Thank you, Chair. I was for a minute thinking you were going to read the entire title, which
I was going to, and I decided not to.
So good evening, Chair, good evening, Vice Chair, and Board of Directors. My name is Nelson Lomeli. I'm a Senior Program Manager with Community Power, and I'm the main lead on this really exciting statewide program, the Equitable Building Direct Install program, which is a really long name for this. So I'm going to try and refrain from using the acronym EBD. But if you do hear me use it, I'm just referring to the Equitable Building DCARB program. So I'm really excited to bring this item to you for your consideration. Staff is asking the board to adopt resolution number 2025-03, which authorizes our Chief Executive Officer, Karen Burns, to do a couple of things with regards to this program. One is to authorize Karen to execute a memorandum of understanding with Los Angeles County, or LA County as I refer to, and related actions like negotiating and executing amendments that are needed. Two, and importantly, is to accept, appropriate, and expend $1.4 million in funding from EBD. I'll get into the details of what this funding is actually going to do in the next couple of slides. Three is to take all the necessary actions to make sure that we're in compliance with the terms of the MOU. And importantly for us, also includes the ability for Karen to negotiate, execute agreements with third parties like our local community-based organizations that are actually going to be implementing portions of this MOU if approved by the board. So first, I want to talk about what the Equitable Building DCARB program actually is and what it means for our region. So this is a statewide program from the California Energy Commission that aims to decarbonize existing homes for low-income residents. The program, as you see, provides no cost direct installation of decarbonization measures and equipment. We try to refrain from using the word free when it comes to programs because that just doesn't resonate with residents as well as no cost. You'll notice that I've been using the term, and like the state uses the term decarbonization instead of electrification. And that's because decarbonization encompasses more than just the replacement and electrification of natural gas appliances. So this program, in addition to doing all of that work of replacing natural gas appliances with modern electric versions of it, is also going to provide energy efficiency measures that help make a home more comfortable and energy efficient, such as weather stripping, insulation, and air sealing. It'll also pay for and allow for basic health and safety remediation measures that might be needed in the home in order to participate in this program. So things like minor roof repairs, lead paint remediation, asbestos remediation, and other minor upgrades like that. It will also fund the upgrade of electric service panels in order to support the electrification equipment if that panel needs it. So participating homes, you'll see on the side on the list here, participating homes may get new or updated heating and cooling systems. So we may be adding cooling to homes that have not had it traditionally. They will be getting new water heaters, new electric stoves, and cooktops, the kind of equipment that we would normally think about. So as the name implies, the program is intended to bring some level of equity into the decarbonization transition. This is by no means the end-all be-all of equitable transition into the clean energy economy and the decarbonization space, but the state really wanted to make sure to target this part of our communities as well. So this means that the program is only open to low to moderate income households in disadvantaged communities that are defined by Cal EnviroScreen 4.0 and low income communities defined under AB 1550.
If that sounds familiar, that is because it is the same definition that we use in our communities of concerns, just without the inclusion of the equity indexes from the city of San Diego and Chula Vista. So eligible homes that may be able to participate in this program include single family homes, including those that are being rented. Renters would just need the authorization from the landlord to make these upgrades. And there are tenant protections that are going to be built into this program as well to make sure that tenants aren't being negatively impacted by landlords that decide to participate in this program. This is also open to multifamily homes, so renters and condo owners, and the state has set aside a specific budget for mobile and manufactured homes. And that is because these homes are traditionally left out of a lot of energy programs, and also because these homes aren't subject to the jurisdiction of the cities when it comes to building permits. They are regulated by the federal government, so they are a lot harder to target and do these kinds of upgrades. So there is a 5% set aside for these homes. So I'll go to the next slide. Wait on this to make it go. It's not going. So this program, we learned about this program about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, which is amazing to think about that we've been working on this for a long time. So when we first heard about this, we started kind of looking around to see what everyone was doing, and we learned that there was a coalition of Southern California agencies led by LA County that were going to track this program and position LA County to be the program administrator. So as a public agency, they wanted to be the program administrator. They gathered a whole bunch of other agencies like the Inland REN, the SoCal REN, some of the council of governments around LA, San Bernardino, and Riverside, as well as the Imperial Irrigation District and CCAs like ourselves. So the state divided the Equitable Building DCAR program into 3 regions. You'll see the map here with the 3 regions outlined and what counties fall within. So there's the northern, the central, and the southern region, and they were going to select one program administrator for each of those 3 regions. So we worked with LA County to position them to submit a response to the CEC to be the program administrator, and they were ultimately successful, leading them to be selected from a competitive solicitation last summer. So the Energy Commission awarded $328 million for the southern region, which is 58% of the statewide budget of $567 million, which means it's a large portion of our budget. This budget doesn't, as Patrick mentioned, does include some portion of it that comes from the federal government through the homes funding. So that is included in this budget as well. We estimate that with this $328 million, or I should say LA County estimates that with this $328 million budget, we have the potential to decarbonize over 8,000 homes in the entire SoCal region. We're estimating that within our service territory, and I want to be very clear about it being our service territory as opposed to the entire county, because CEA is also participating, Clean Energy Alliance, our sister CCF North, is also participating in this coalition and also part of EBD. They have their own target of homes as well. So in our service territory, we're estimating about 1,500 homes that could be decarbonized as part of this project. What that means is when we take a look at the overall budget is that we have the potential here to invest up to $60 million into our region, to our service territory in these homes. So it's important to note that we ourselves as SDCP, as Community Power, will not be receiving the $60 million, but we are going to drive the marketing, outreach, education, and coordination to have $60 million invested in our region. So I just wanted to state that it's quite a bit of money and big opportunity for us in our region. Okay, So as I said at the start of my presentation, we are going, hopefully, with your approval, to receive $1.4 million to do a couple of activities. Part of that is setting aside $737,000 to conduct marketing, outreach, and educational activities through our power network. So this is in particular is going to be like a pass-through funding to our community-based organizations to actually go out into the community, since they are closely aligned, and do the promotional activities to recruit homes into the program. The CC is developing a tool that is specifically going to target what addresses or what homes, and it is up to the partners like ourselves and our community-based organizations to help do the outreach to those homes. The CEC is considering a number of different factors into this targeting tool, including homes that are vulnerable to extreme climate risk, subject to extreme air pollution, that are underserved by existing programs, and experiencing high energy burdens. So like I said, our community-based organizations would then you would be partnering with them and signing agreements with them to conduct that outreach to these homes to inform of this program. The remaining money from the 1.4 million, so 663,000, will be directly for community power staff time, and that will be to support the power network, but also importantly is to assist LA County and the coalition and the program as a whole in coordinating and integrating other programs. So we really see this as a crucial part of our scope of work, is that we have a lot of really exciting pilots or a lot of really exciting programs that are on the horizon, from SDREN, San Diego Regional Energy Network, as well as some of our own pilots, our Smart Home Flex pilot, that can help deliver additional benefits to our customers, such as utilizing those electric appliances or controlling those electric appliances so that they're using energy in off-peak period, avoiding on-peak period that can have further impacts to a homeowner's bill. So as I said, we've been working on this for a really long time, just over 2 years. Here's a timeline of where we've gone. I won't go into the specific details of this, but LA County has communicated to us that they are targeting a launch of the Equitable Building DPAR program this July. That does not mean that all the funding is going to go all at once. I want to be clear about that, because there's always this concern, right? What this means is that we can then start doing the outreach education to get the homeowners involved in this process and get them enrolled into this program. This is a 5-year program, so there's a lot of a big opportunity here for us to really work collaboratively with our communities, with our community-based organizations, and really drive that investment of $6 million into our region and bring a whole host of benefits to some of our most vulnerable residents. So what I'm asking before you is to adopt Resolution 2503, as I've mentioned, which authorizes this Chief Executive Officer Karen Burns to do a number of things, which is including executing the MOU with LA County, negotiating and executing any amendments if it's needed, accepting, appropriating, and expending that 1.4 million so that we can do the outreach, education, and the coordinating of programs, to take all necessary actions to hold us accountable for the MOU and deliver on the terms of that, and to negotiate any agreements with third parties, in this case, community-based organizations, so that we can do that outreach and education. And with that, I will that wraps up my presentation, and I'm happy to take up any questions.
Vice Chair.
I have a lot of questions. Very.
Yeah, so LA County, in their estimates that they're doing, they're anticipating, and again, it depends on the need of the house, but they're anticipating an average of around $40,000 per home. Yeah, it's first come, first serve in terms of the program design that the state has set up. I wouldn't characterize this submitting on the first day because this is going to be just a long-term program, and because it is very impactful to the homes and it does disrupt the residents' lives. I expect this program to take about 6 to 12 months for the first set of applications to kind of start rolling in, just because it will require a lot of educational activities to be done. But yes, it is first come, first serve.
And what is oh, good, now everyone can hear me. Thank you. What does that application consist of? What kind of information is going to be needed for someone to apply?
That is an excellent question that I don't have a clear answer to because that application hasn't been shared with us just yet. The idea that LA County and the coalition that we have come up with is really working with the community-based organizations to identify who in their community would be eligible and a perfect fit for this program, and then hand them off to what they call a concierge to help with the application so it can minimize the amount of burden on the resident. If one of the things is income verification that will be needed, and that can be done through a number of already existing statewide programs, like if you're participating in CARE and FARA and SNAP, some of those other low-income programs, those all can qualify for this income verification process so that we're not having to ask for like tax receipts or anything of that sort.
So the application will have all these sort of eligibility requirements built in, but it's going to be like kind of a robust application.
Yes, and part of the role that we anticipate CBOs kind of helping us with as well is to walk with residents through this process of applying. And so that is one of the things that we will be asking our CBOs if they have any interest and or ability to do.
I'm just kind of thinking about, you've got a lot of, people here. Like I could imagine if we really want to get the word out, it'd be really helpful for our chair to do like a press event in June and announce that this is coming online. So I'm kind of thinking about things like that.
Yeah, I'm looking back at my colleague, Jen LeBron, in terms of helping set something up like that. But yeah, that's.
Well, I think this is an amazing program, and I would love to see our chair announce it and get the word. Use the free earned media, right, to spread the word about this.
Yeah, especially like I said, we want to capture that funding and bring it into our region. So we will be relying on your help a lot to get the word out for this program.
Great. Well, I would love those additional details. I'm happy to get the word out. I think I have about 150,000 people on my email list, and that's just sort of easy, cheap ways of reaching out to folks. And I would imagine lots of people here on this board can reach a pretty big audience and earn media. 730,000 is, we can do better than that with a couple press conferences. So, Chair, would you be willing to take the lead? Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other? Yes, Director Insunza.
I think you had on one of the previous slides, did you have maybe about 5 bullets on some specific criteria within that lottery system?
Yes, let me see if I can go back just so that it's for the record. I believe you were referencing
There it is, yeah.
the target communities.
So would it be, in the lottery system, would it be per individual household within the jurisdiction of community power, or would it be communities that risk that might be disenfranchised or more exposed to air pollution or climate risks? Would it be a combination of those things? So would it be individual homes of people we're trying to get the word out to that would be applicable to, or would it be communities at risk?
Yeah, that's an excellent clarification point. And our understanding of what the CEC is trying to accomplish with this targeting tool is a combination of what you described. So identifying communities that have homes that are vulnerable to extreme risk, all of these different criterias, but identifying specific addresses to do the outreach to. So the reason they're saying specific addresses is the Energy Commission has data from the IOUs, and they're layering all these different pieces and factors on top of that to try and identify what homes would be the most beneficial or able to participate in this program.
So in that process, would it be, I mean, naturally, I'm in the second, represent the second largest city in the county, and of course, I'd like a lot of this to benefit my community, but when I look in the areas where I grew up, in San Isidro and the Nesta areas, in Pearl Beach has the highest man-made pollution in the United States right now, and they're undeserved community. They're exposed to all these toxins and air pollution. Would that be like an effort where we've seen this such a massive crisis right now? Would that area, whether we're discussing it by lottery or not, would an area like that, if I'm trying to think selflessly and focus more on who needs it most, would that be an area we could designate in the areas of San Isidro, Nestor, or in Pearl Beach in the city specifically? Would we be able to collectively make determinations of what is the highest need of a combination of air pollution and disenfranchised communities?
Yes, that is something that we have definitely in conversations with LA County when this has been brought up, and saying like, hey, like our cities, we've done a lot of this mapping, like we have our communities of concerns. There's all these areas like we've been describing. Consider that as part of your targeting tool as well, not just relying on statewide data, like we have on the ground data that we can share with you all. And they've been really receptive to that. So yes, I would, to answer the question, yes, I think we could consider those kinds of pieces in this targeting tool. It's just a matter of like working with LA County to include those when the CC is mandating something to them. But yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Inzunza. I was actually thinking the exact same thing, because you have the layer of the sewage pollution, and then the particle matter emissions of the quarter, and then on top of that, so many other things, right? The demographics and the low-income communities of San Isidro and Nestor. So absolutely, I like that idea of us helping shape that. Director Suzuki.
So when I'm not really sure if I understand. So when you're identifying the low income, or when these people are being, is it when it's a renter, are you going by the renter's income, or are you going by the area, or are you going by the landlord?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I'll answer your question saying, yes, it's based on the renter's income. And if it's targeting a specific like multifamily building, they consider 60% of the renter's income to get them involved in this program. So it is quite extensive, like the amount of program design that the CEC went through. They spent just a year doing public comment and working through a lot of these groups to get the right program design and influence into that. So yes.
Okay. And so when you have a tenant who qualifies for this low income, and I know that you said that there's tenant protection. There's tenant protection that's being, I guess it's built in. But for instance, if they're having to do construction, does that mean that the tenant will then qualify for some funding so that they can be relocated temporarily? And does that go straight to the landlord, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the Energy Commission has indicated in the program guidelines is that they would follow all of state law related to displacing a tenant during construction. So what the guidelines say is that they prohibit property owners from evicting tenants that are participating in the unit before, during, or after the project without just cause, and they must commit in writing, which is part of this participation agreement that is being developed by the Energy Commission, that the upgrades themselves, participating in the program, is not a basis for just cause. So yes, there are a number of like displacement strategies that are built into the guidelines, and it's all within following state law.
Right. So with state law, when it comes to tenant, landlord-tenant law, so oftentimes the landlords have to provide the tenants temporary housing. And I guess my question is specifically, is the program going to pay for that? And if it is there a cap And how can you enforce it? My concern is that landlords, a lot of them don't want to have to do that because that means that they have to go and apply for it and maybe it caps out at a week, but the construction takes longer. I'm kind of curious about that and where can I find it? Because if I can find it, or is it going to come in the information we're getting? Because as a tenant, if I was a tenant, and I've practiced landlord tenant law before, and I can tell you during COVID, for instance, that's a perfect example. People could not be displaced, right? Which is a good thing. But then at the same time, people would either abuse it either way. And so the question here is this is a good program. I think it's awesome. It's fantastic. But
that wasn't the details.
Right.
Yep.
Right. It is because when they get displaced, then how are they going to apply for funding? Is the funding going to be reimbursed? Is it going to be upfront? And where are they going to go? I guess that's my question is just what happens, because I assume a lot of these people are renters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't have an answer for you at the moment, but that is something that I can take back to LA County to check. And I can also check the guidelines to see specifically what is there around. Do this funding also cover those when you are displacing a tenant, that the cost of those? I want to say they do, but I also don't want to just make something up right now. But I will take that back and follow it up, and then we can follow up with you so that you don't have to do that work.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Director Yaman.
Thank you. So you said it's not SDCP is going to do the work. We are going to have CBOs that will be in charge of qualifying the eligibility of those benefits, correct?
A little bit, yeah. So the CBOs are going to be the ones doing the promotional activities to try and get residents into the program. There is an opportunity for CBOs that want to do a little bit more of a hand-holding in terms of helping fill out the application or be more technical experts. They can do that as well, and that will be something that we're going to put out a call for. But yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? You asked my question, Director Suzuki, but I want to go further into it, the tenant protections aspect, because different cities have different just cause ordinances. The city of Chula Vista provides 2 months relocation, 3 months for elderly and disabled. In Pearl Beach, the same. City of San Diego is separate. I'm not quite familiar with La Mesa. So I think that's going to be an area of interest. I know for me it is very strong interest because the definition of substantial remodel is a really sticky point when it comes to what the state law protects and what the local law protects, if there is an ordinance in place locally. Because if there isn't, let's say we're talking about unincorporated areas, Bonita maybe, or Lincoln Acres, it could run into some problems. So I would be very interested in looking at that and making sure that no one is being unfairly displaced and that they're getting the full benefit of what we're intending to do here. Secondly, you did mention mobile homes and parks. Obviously, those are under both federal and state jurisdiction. And I know that's some of the areas that have the biggest needs, right? I know it's rare to find a mobile home that has a gas stove, for example. They usually have electric stoves, but then the water heaters are gas powered. So I would be very interested in the work to help them transition to, but then you get into these nuances of being federally and state, under state and federal jurisdiction. So I want to make sure that we take a strong look at that and that they are also prioritized within the context of Cal Enviro screen. But those are some of our most vulnerable populations, as you well know. So that would be important to look at. And then the process-wise, so Director Yamani asked, would they come and actually do the work themselves? But is the expectation that, if let's say we're going to install a gasless water heater, right? And that would take some construction work and whatnot. the expectation be that they come, they do it, and then the recipient of the program doesn't have to put any money towards it?
Correct.
Okay, so they don't put anything out of pocket, there's no reimbursement. Okay, that's really good. And then question regarding the CBOs, do they necessarily have to be a 501c3 or environmental focus? Because I'm thinking more, sometimes there's coalitions, sometimes there's collaboratives, sometimes you have areas and communities that are communities of concern that don't even have established formal 501c3s. I'm thinking maybe even collaboratives or groups that have different focuses, for example, housing. Is that something that you're thinking about?
That definitely is, and I'm trying to pull up the guidelines right now to see if they do have to be 501c3s, because I think they just say community-based
organizations.
And through our power network, this is a question that we need to ask our staff in terms of whether they need to be 501c3s. And I'm not entirely sure right now if they do have to be, but yeah, that's something we can definitely look at and come back to you.
Madam Chair, I think if it's a grant, they have to be.
No, they have to have a fiscal sponsor, right? But I'm encouraging you all to think outside the box and not go with the traditional CBOs that we usually go with, and truly tap into the grassroots energy of the people that are doing that work with the most vulnerable, so that we don't miss anything.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jen LeBron. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for San Diego Community Power. Thank you, Board, for having me. I just wanted to address the question that was posed. You do not need to be a 501c3 to join the Power Network. And in fact, we have an RFQ, a request for qualifications, that is open on a rolling basis. So interested organizations are welcome to apply, and we would encourage that if you happen to know of any groups, whether that is a CBO, or a different organization that may be able to support community power through these efforts, please send them our way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that exhausts my questions. Another one? You have another? Any other? All right, Nelson, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. This is very exciting, I have to agree, and I fully support this. I'm not going to read the entire resolution because you already did, for the record. So I'm looking for a motion
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, I do have to read it?
We have no public comments.
We're all making the first motion
Oh, I
collectively.
was like,
All want to make the motion. That's how excited we all
all
are.
right, well,
I saw the county and maybe the super or the national city, and I'm not sure who.
okay, Vice. So the Vice Chair made the
Happy
motion,
to.
and the second was Director Yamani. Okay. Mani, please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Alternate Director LaCava,
Yes.
Director San Antonio.
Aye.
Director Suzuki,
Yes.
Director Yamani,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lassen Reimer,
Aye.
Chair Aguirre.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Nelson.
you.
Okay, we're gonna now move on to item number 11, updates to San Diego Community Power Board and Committee Compensation and Reimbursement Policy. So this is a policy that I'm bringing to the board to consider for certain updates. The purpose of the updates are to recognize that with the growth of community power, there's an increase in the need for participation by Community Power Board and committee members in meetings and other agency-related business, and to compensate members for that work. So the proposed changes would be to increase the per diem compensation for committee members from 100 to 150 for attendance at meetings and other official business of community power. Second, to include outreach events as an additional type of official business that is eligible for per diem compensation. Third, increase the per diem cap to 6 meetings per month when a member is part of more than one board, committee, or working group. The changes are authorized under California Government Code Section 53232.2. The fiscal impact is expected to be up to $55,200 per year. And that concludes the presentation of this item. Next, we're going to go to public comments. Do we have any?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any comments from the board or questions? Yeah.
I said this last time, I think, when this came up. I think My concern, I strongly believe that there's a lot of folks here who are working part-time and the pay in your cities is low and absolutely deserve to be compensated in order for us to have good leadership and participation. My concern is there's people like me, this is a full-time job, and I don't feel like I need to get paid more to come to my meetings. I'll be here either way. So I just am wondering, and again, I know I broached this last time, I just want to broach it again, if there's a way that we could have some people would be eligible and others wouldn't. I just don't, speaking for the county, I don't think the county needs representative would need to, should be eligible, frankly, myself.
Is that's a question for council.
Yeah.
Yes. So we did look at that last time. And certainly a member could opt not to seek their per diem. So it's, it's a voluntary collection on the part of the member. But when we were looking at it last time, I looked at the different like ordinances that the cities have for how the council members and the board supervisors are paid. And there's such variation, like you're saying, in the amount that just saying that someone's intending to be like a full-time member wasn't necessarily enough compensation to cover the fact that there's other entities that they're working for, and that the job is sometimes more than even a full-time job. So I think we had decided at that point that it was easier to draft the policy where the member could choose not to get it than to try to parse out the different ways that each of your member organizations are compensating you. However, if you would prefer to do it that way, and we could certainly say if you receive more than, $150,000 from your member organization or whatever that threshold is, we can certainly adapt the policy to reflect that. That's at the discretion of the board.
I mean, I'm happy to take legal guidance if they think it's too hard. I just wanted to raise it. And I certainly support compensation for the work that folks do. And I think that's really important. It's just, just cognizant that that there's different folks in different positions.
Director LaCava.
Just echoing the comments of the vice chair, the county and the city of San Diego, we are full-time jobs. And I've always been particularly sensitive to the smaller cities who part-time jobs, who sometimes have pretty minimal compensation for being a council member or a mayor. Even though it's a part-time job, they often work full-time doing that work. And if I remember the conversation we had last year when we adopted the current language, I think I would be inclined to just give an easy opt-out mechanism so that a member could make that choice themselves rather than complicate, as you said, Vera, some language in the policy that may be awkward or draw undue attention. So just make it, if we could ask staff to give us an easy opt-out process.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I appreciate that. Those two comments, thank you very much for that. I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-04, amending San Diego Community Power Board and committee compensation reimbursement policy to increase the per diem compensation for advisory committee members, increase the cap on monthly per diem compensation, allow committee members to receive a per diem for activities attended on behalf of community power, including outreach. So moved.
Move to adopt, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Alternate Director LaCava,
Yes.
Director San Antonio.
Aye.
Director Suzuki,
Yes.
Director Yamani,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lasso-Rima,
I'm going to abstain.
and Chair Aguirre.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Next, we're going to go on to the CEO's report. Karen, do you have anything to say?
I do. Good evening, board members. Thank you for being here today. Next slide, please. All right, let me start by wishing everybody a happy Earth Day on Tuesday. For Community Power, Earth Day is really more like Earth Month as we celebrate sustainability alongside many of our local communities. We kicked off the month at the South Bay Earth Day event in Chula Vista. And last week, we attended the County of San Diego Earth Day Fair and the La Mesa Earth Day. On Earth Day itself, we joined both UCSD and Sony Electronics for their respective Earth Day festivals. And the following day, we joined our tribal communities at the Viejas Earth Day. And then looking ahead to this weekend, we're not done yet. We'll close out our month of Earth Day celebrations at the Ramona Earth Day Festival to celebrate Arbor Day with the city of San Diego and our partner, the San Diego Football Club. We were also able to celebrate Earth Day with one of our Power 100 champions, the San Diego Padres. In partnership with the Padres, we sent out our annual partnership email in celebration of Earth Day and Petco Park's commitment to sustainability through 100% renewable energy. The email also included simple tips that Padres fans can practice to build sustainability habits and encourage them to share their thoughts on our programs and services through our customer feedback survey. We also shared that across the Padres social media. Next slide, please. This month, we also celebrated the grand opening of the new Children's Museum's Creative Studios and Education Commons and their commitment to joining us as our newest Power 100 champion. I had the opportunity to join them at their opening ceremony, where I spoke to their great work helping children to learn, grow, and explore their curiosities, and commended their dedication to shaping a cleaner, greener future. I also recently joined Startup San Diego for their April edition of the monthly panel discussion and networking event, First Mondays, sponsored by Clean Tech San Diego, another partner of ours. The event was packed with almost 300 attendees. I had the pleasure of moderating a panel discussion about clean tech innovation, and we discussed how local startups here in San Diego are leveraging clean technologies to achieve their energy goals. That's what I have today. But before I conclude, some of you may have seen that Community Power is currently hiring a chief commercial officer for power supply services. Our current chief commercial officer, Byron Bosberg, will be departing our organization on May 16th. Byron has been one of Community Power's longest tenured employees, joining the organization in February 2021. During his time at Community Power, he has been instrumental in building both our clean power portfolio and our talented power services team. He served as a leader in our organization and has demonstrated a strong commitment to Community Power's mission, vision, and values. Byron, on behalf of the entire Community Power team, thank you for your contributions to this organization, and congratulations on the new opportunities that await you. We wish you the very best, and you will be missed.
Thank you. Any director comments?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
Wanted to thank Community Power for providing information and some goodies to the neighborhood council meeting that we had last weekend. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Ms. Jen LeBron, for that. In a small way, we were able to, show our constituents participation of Community Power in those neighborhood council meetings. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Community Power as well. Just thank you, Byron, and good luck. But also, thank you for participating in La Mesa's Earth Day Fair, because it meant a lot to see it. And I think a lot of people had a good time with it. So thank you.
Anyone else? Great.
I want to thank the whole team, those new and those leaving, and those who are consistently staffing and supporting us. I make the argument with our own city staff where I don't have too many questions, because I always reference Dr. Washington and Karen, how elaborate and how detailed you are. It makes our lives easier when we're all busy. Some of us are part-time, so we also have day jobs. But I really appreciate the input and all the support. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with my colleagues in Irvine next week to learn a lot more. And I'd also like to congratulate Chair Terry Lawson-Remer with such an inspiring state of the county. It was a packed house. It was invigorating, and it really energized county elected officials and community leaders all over the county, so that I was really happy to be there with you, Chair. And Mayor Aguirre, congratulations on your next move on your candidacy. And I know you're wearing a lot of different hats right now. You're committed here, and you're leading not only your city, but the cities where I grew up in San Isidro and National City and the city of Chula Vista. But you are leading the local fight. It's not easy. It's been going on for decades, but you're bringing that not only local and state, but now federal tension to something that I've said openly is the Flint, Michigan of California. So I really want to thank you personally for that, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind comments. And I concur. Congratulations on a wonderful state of the county. I had to watch it on, yeah. I had to watch it on video because I was during my council meeting. Very, very impressive. And Byron, thank you for all your work. It was wonderful working with you, and you're going to leave big, big shoes to fill. But I wish you the best. I hear you're going to greener Sequoia. How do you? I don't know.
Yeah, and thank you, Chair. I'll keep my comments brief. I'll be heading to Central Coast Community Energy, so staying within the CCA family. Really excited about the opportunity to help lead their executive team and step in there. I will say it's bittersweet. I'm excited about the opportunity to grow my career and help again work with other CCA. And thank you, Karen, the executive team, and all of you for your leadership and support in making this transition as well. But man, leaving this organization, leaving this team is gonna be really hard. It's been it's been 4 years, longer than 4 years, and to be involved in this from close to the beginning has been the privilege of a career for sure. The challenge probably of a career also. Looking back, we started 4 years ago on Zoom meetings, right? It was we were reflecting this earlier this week. It was Zoom meetings and a pandemic and rolling blackouts and supply chain issues, and we had 6 of us and a couple laptops, right? And so to see what we've done, to see the team we've built, the leadership team we've built, the impact we've had in environmentally, despite all the challenges, the portfolio we've built, the impact we've had in our communities, it's just been incredibly rewarding. So really hard to step back, but I do so with absolute faith in the team we have here and the organization we have built. I couldn't step away if I didn't have complete confidence. And again, excited about the new role, but it's a very bittersweet transition. But thank you, Chair and directors as well, for your support and leadership throughout. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's hear it again for Byron. All right, I think that's it. We should take a photo after. Yeah. All right. This meeting's adjourned.